Welcome everyone. Today I'm going to help you master Spa in the wonderful Alpine hypercar, as you see. My name is Gregor Schill. I'm a professional test driver and coach for the Coach Dave Academy and also an esports driver for the BS Plus competition racing team. So let's get right into it. When we go for Ultimate Hotlap, what we try is of course maximizing already the exit which leads onto our flying lap, because if we're able to get a bit early onto the power, we gain already quite some time on the flying lap. So essentially what we do here is we try to open up the last corner as much as we can, so we can open our steering wheel way earlier than with the normal line, and this helps us to gain like easily half a tenth, maybe even a tenth. And now for turn 1 we aim for the 100 meter bot. When the car is level to that, that's we start to brake. Really hard initially. You need to go gradually out of the brake, because if you keep the high braking pressure too long, you will lock up and you will essentially never ever be able to make the corner. It's quite a late turn in, because we want to be quite aggressive on the exit. We need to do that, and when you rev here on the inside, you want to cut as much as you can and then bam, aggressively onto the power and maximize the track on the exit. Now for Rouge and Radion, it's quite easy in the hypercars because you have the downforce, but the crucial part here is not getting through, you know, without lifting. It's more about getting through without steering too much, because if you steer too much you can lose the car really easily. So it's crucial that you do basically a lot of cutting here on the bottom of the hill, so you can do like a small flick here to the right and then just have a straight steering wheel through the entire section. If you do that, you'll be good to go and you'll have no issues here. And this essentially is already the first sector done for you. Now for the second sector and the following corners, which are the comp, you try to aim for the essentially curb here on the left side, and just before that, that's where you start to brake. You want to carry a lot of entry speed here, so when you trail here into the corner, you just maybe want to do like a small throttle blip just to keep the speed if necessary, and you want to cut quite a lot here. When you go into the power now in this section between those two corners, don't try to go too long on the throttle, because you don't want to understeer off to the left, because it's crucial that you arrive here then on the left side, so you cut a lot on the left side. But then have in mind the sequence is still not finished, so you don't want to run now wide here to the right. You want to keep the car tight here to the left, so you can go even here onto the curb and just do a small lift and go quite back quite aggressively onto the throttle. And as this section is quite tricky and important at the same time, let's have a look again into the section in Delta. As you see, we arrive with 314 kph, which is just incredible, and we start to brake here really hard. So you see 100%, maximize the road here on the left, and you see we carry a lot of speed through this corner, and depending on your consistency and the car, this is here the area where you might need also a small throttle blip. And you see here we go onto the power just slightly to get a bit of speed back, but not really accelerate out the corner, because we know we need to sacrifice this left hander by staying a bit more tight, so we can bring essentially the car now over to the left side enough to then have like a really quick right hander out of the section. You see like the lift we need to do here is almost not existent, and that's only because we sacrificed the previous corner enough. Now arrive back, we go for the downhill hairpin, and it's quite tricky because you don't have a lot of grip available for braking, and you really need to try to not lock up. And what we do here is we try to aim for the curb on the left side. When we are level with that, we start to brake into the corner, so just point the car with a bit of an angle into the apex, and you start to trail off quite early, as I said, because you don't want to lock up the tire. So it's like a mix of a double apex and a late apex, because you don't want to go too tight normally here. But the most important part is here the second one. So when you arrive here on the inside, you go onto the power, and you really try to not run too wide, because the fundamental goal here is to have enough time to bring the car over here onto the right side, so you can get it onto the curb to open up the next corner nicely. Just a small tap onto the brakes to get the front end hooked and into the inside of the corner, and then you're just patient, and when you arrive at the apex you can go on the power, maximize the track on the exit, and then you're good to go. Now for Pouin, which arrives quite quick, you go onto the curb here, and when you're level with the Toyota Gazoo racing sign, you start to brake, and normally you aim around 30-40% peak braking pressure. It's not really a hard braking zone because you have a lot of downforce, and Point, so the next corner, is pretty, let's say, open. You don't need to rotate the car too much, so it's quite easy to carry a lot of speed into the corner. It's just important to know that you can do it. So you carry a lot of speed into the corner, and that's approximately the point where you go onto the power. You can even run a bit more wide on the entry, maybe even onto the curb, but it's important that you have the high entry speed. Here on the left side you stay tight, then you can run wide here onto the right side. But then as quick as you can over to the left side, and now you aim for the curb on the left. Here, just before that, that's where you start to brake. Into the apex, and now again a chicane. So we don't want to go now when we arrive here at the apex aggressively onto the power and run wide. We want to sacrifice this part here for the second part of the chicane, so don't go too much here onto the curb to unsettle the hypercar. Try to be a bit here patient, so you are in the middle of the road here, and then you can still have enough time to get the car here onto the left side and get a really good run out of the corner. Most people do the mistake that they're thinking now, well, I'm done with the section, I can have a breath and a small break. But no, not at all. Especially in the hypercars, you need to bring the car over in time to the left side. And you see the Goodyear sign. When you've passed that, that's where you start to brake. Not really hard, because you just need to, again, reduce a small amount of speed, but the brake is much more important to get the rotation done and the front essentially hooked into the inside of the corner. Don't take too much curb here on the inside. The only part you want to really use is the red and yellow one, because this is the most consistent area you can use essentially. And then run wide here on the left side. Don't take the gravel. And then a really late turn in, so you have a really nice exit lined up. Now, as we head for Blanchiment, everything is quite easily fed out, so the only difference you can make in driving here is by picking the line which has the least amount of steering. So really try to think about here minimizing your steering angle. That will help you with a couple of thousands, hopefully. And now, last but not least, the bus stop, which is a deal breaker most of the time, because you want to sometimes regain some time if you haven't done a really good lap, or you take it to save, and this can cost you either way. So what we want to do in that scenario is we want to really focus on our reference point, right? And the reference point we use for the bus stop here is the 150 meter board here on the left. So when you pass this one, just like 10 meters, 20 meters later, that's where you start to brake. And really crucial here, do it in a straight line, so you can maximize the braking performance. So really long and hard braking out of the brake as we lose the aero and have only the mechanical grip. We try to trail now into the apex, and when we go now here for the apex, don't try to cut the red sausage here on the right side, only the red and yellow part. This is the most important one. And then don't go too aggressively onto the power and run wide. You want to position the car in the middle of the road here to still have a really good entry for the, let me go here, to still have a really good entry here for the second part of the bus stop. So just have that in mind. And when you have here, just a small braking tap, maybe if you want, to get the front end into the apex, so the front just bites slightly more, which allows you to open up the steering a bit earlier and accelerate also out of the corner quicker. Here, same story as with the first part, just the red and yellow curb, not the red sausage, and if you have that in mind, you can be quite aggressive on the throttle, maximize the track on the exit, and get your new personal best. That's it for the lap guide. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them into the comment section. If you want to see how a quick hot lap looks around this track, make sure to watch the video until the end, because there you will see myself driving the Alpine at its limit. And other than that, thanks for tuning in, and I hope I see you in the next one. Bye bye.